YouTube? Welcome back to the channel, guys. Today we are going to go over the classes of Fire Emblem Engage, FEngage as I like to call it, FEngage, and go over. I'll do a pseudo tier list for them, ranking if they're a good class, objectively if they're a good class, objectively if they're not, or if they're kind of just, what the use case for them is. And then on the second list over here, I will put the class name in and also tell you guys which units make good whatever the class is. So we're talking about Bow Knight, which units are going to make a good Bow Knight, which units are going to make a good Sage, stuff and such like that. Obviously, this won't really apply to the signatures. So the signatures I'll go over first and just rank them, and then I'll do use case for all the other classes. I'm not going to talk about base classes. They really don't matter outside of, what people start as, and you get to level 10 and you promote them, and it doesn't really matter. So base classes, just kind of get them out of the way. I will pull up their growth rates if I feel like I need to show that off to you guys. Talk about anything. I will be going over all the characters and classes in the game, so there's your spoiler warning, although I think it's kind of too far past spoilers anyways. And we can look at skills and such through here. So I might be jumping through multiple pages, so just be warned, I do click around a decent amount. So let's go through it. So let's go through the signatures first off. Divine Dragon, on Alear only, is a great class. All of these things you can do with emblems and all the perks you get from emblems are just super strong. Being sword locked is, I guess you get the fists, the arts as well, which is just nice for like breaking, and you can have like the shielding art to get just random +5 defense. Yeah, it's the dragon tag. That's really it. And then Alear gets the 1-2 range sword near the end of the game anyways, so being on swords isn't the worst thing in the world. I mean, for the most of the game, it's fine. Swords are just really strong in this game. Weirdly enough, I don't think they're quite as strong as like lances or magic, but they're decently strong. You've got a lot of flexibility. Like you've got Armor Slayer, Worm Slayer to take care of certain units. And there's a decent amount of strong swords in this game. Even through like DLC things you get or the well, there's plenty of strong swords, so it's a great class. Alfred's Avenir, also, all of these classes, I don't know how to pronounce most of them, so I'm just going to pronounce them how I think they fit. Just understand, you could understand which one I'm talking about. Alfred's Avenir class is objectively not good, and kind of here's why. So if we look at the growth rates, Avenir is 15 HP, 15 strength, 5 dex, 10 speed, 25 defense, which is nice, 20 luck, 5 build, 5 res. If we look at over here, basically the almost the same class of Paladin, 15% strength, 15% HP, which is the exact same as Avenir. We go down to dex, it's actually 5 more dex, it's 10 dex instead of the 5. Speed is 15. Wow, it's only 10 on Avenir. The 25 defense is still 15, which is still good. And then you have 15 resistance, 10 luck. So you're really not looking at like too much difference. Like the higher defense is cool, but I'd rather have more speed and more dex on him. And the strength and HP is the same. So it's essentially just Paladin growth rates. And the real thing that's just not very good is the ability Golden Lotus. So it procs up dexterity. Which, funny enough, the class only gives you 5% dexterity. I'm not gonna look over like caps and stuff. I don't think that's the biggest thing to really show off. I'll just talk about the few caps of some classes if they really matter. But dexterity skill percentage, activation, and the class doesn't really give you much dex. It gives you 5%. During combat, may prevent 50% of physical damage taken. Physical damage, that's just not the biggest deal ever. If it resisted all damage, it'd be really good. But the fact that it's just physical, you'd be better off just going general to have higher defense and have 30 defense and higher base defense and stuff than Avenir, and it still reduces damage by 50%. You still take the damage, while like something like General having ludicrous defense that you can actually take 0. Avenir's not really gonna ever take 0, so maybe you're taking 5 instead of 10, but that's still 5 damage. And Alfred has speed issues, so he's going to be doubled, so it doesn't really actually matter, and it ends up just being worse than a general or like paladin for the same reason and stuff. Alfred's just so much better in much different classes. Not that Alfred's even like the most stellar unit, but the class definitely doesn't do him any favors. Vidame, whatever it is for Selene is a great class. It's a amazing hybrid. It has good growths overall. 15% magic, 10% strength. That's nice for a hybrid class. 5 and everything is a little rough. I'd hope for more speed, like at least 10% speed. But at least you get like both strength and magic, and then resistance, luck, kind of whatever. So the growths they're fine. Getting both stats is great. The real selling point of Vidame, or the two I would say, is the first one is you have access to tomes, swords, and staves and staff, which is really cool. So you're not a sage, not a mage knight. Like sage and mage knight only get access to 2 of which, or like a griffin knight only gets access to 2 of which. You get access to all 3, which is really cool. So you can use on the same class. You can have a physics staff, you can have a Levin sword, and you can have like a Bolganone, which is really nice flexibility there. If you get silenced, you can just use a Levin sword because that doesn't stop you from being silenced. And the biggest selling point is Ignis, which can add in Fire Emblem Engage. If we go down here, dexterity proc. Sadly, you don't get much dexterity again, but you can add half of your strength or magic to the other, basically there. So if you're attacking with your strength stat, you can add half your magic stat to that attack. If you're attacking with your magic stat, you can add half of your strength to that stat. So if she attacks with a silver sword, she has a chance to proc half of her magic and just deal extra accidental damage. And same thing vice versa if she's doing a magic tome. So that's just accidental extra damage and the flexibility of the class. It's really good and is like the whole reason to use Selene. So just so you know, Selene is not going to really show up on much of these, for any of these use cases for any other classes. She's just, that really is the better one. And that'll be the case for some other characters, like Alchrist. Tier delete, however you use, this is a rough one to say. This one, Tier delete, that one, yes. Growth rates, first off, 30% dex is really awesome because it has a dex percent skill of Luna. The 10% speed is really nice. The 15% defense is really funny. You get some strength growth in there, some HP, so he's got some tankiness, which helps his personal skill. And that 30% dex is just really nice. Because the real selling point to this class, it is just a bow-locked, it's basically just a sniper, but you get Luna, which is really strong. You're also a covert, which is really nice. Covert means you get double the terrain effect, like double the avoid from terrain tiles and such. Vidame is mystical, so you can kind of ignore that terrain bonus from other units. Luna in Fire Emblem Engage, come all the way down. It is dexterity proc, which you get that 30% dex, so he's gonna proc this a lot because it has such a high dexterity stat. While making an attack, may ignore half of the foe's defense or resistance depending on what you're attacking with. So if you're attacking with a radiant bow, you can ignore half of resistance. If you're attacking with a physical bow, you can ignore half of defense. This is really strong. It basically can turn a 0% or a 0 damage hit on like an armor knight into 15 if they have 30 defense or so. And both of these skills and the other skills like this, Grasping Void, Soul, Sandstorm, I believe that's all of them. They can all proc on any single hit. So when you're using an emblem in their main attack, like Lodestar Rush, Override, Quadruple Hits, Astral Storm, Great Ether, Torrential Roar, Twin Strike, the Three Houses Unite. I know there's other DLC things. Anything that's multi-hit, it can any of those skills can proc on any one of those attacks. So you can get multiple Luna procs on something like Astral Storm and just accidentally deal a major amount of damage. So really great class. Successor is another great class for Diamant. It just has really high stats. You get Soul, which it is... He has really low dex, so it's not going to proc all the time, but when it does, it's just extra healing. The Successor has really nice growth, 20% strength, 15% defense, while also giving 15% speed. This is just objectively better than something like Wyvern Knight. If we look at Wyvern Knight, you also have the 20% strength, and you have 20% defense instead of the 15, but the speed is only 5. So Successor offering one of the highest speed growths in the game that a class can give you. The highest is 20 that a class could give you. Is really, really nice on top of, you know, the strength, the HP. A little bit of build on there is super nice. And this, yeah. So the growths on this class are really amazing. You're a backup unit that has access to swords and axes, and he uses axes very well. With his build, his good strength, his good speed, and his personal skill, which increases accuracy. So this is just an amazing class. And yeah, there's really no downsides to this class. It's just super strong. It's just better. It's literally just better than Wyvern if you're okay with not being on a flyer, I guess. And you want to be... It's also a backup, so you can chain attack with it. Lindworm is great. This is Ivy's class. This is another like Swiss Army knife class. It's a little bit... It's basically just a flying sage. So we come over here and take a look. Lindworm, you have access to tome and staves. And you are flyer, so you can go over a lot of the spaces that are like there's no ground beneath or some obstacles you can go over. This just helps with positioning and even getting out of the way, and there's some certain cheese strats with like the 5-man flyer bonded shield stuff. This class is really good, and it has really fun growth rates to go with Ivy's growths. In Lindworm, she has 25% magic, 15% defense, which is just weird, honestly, and 25% resistance. So she's really tanky here. Only 5% HP, but she has pretty fine HP. So really high magic growth, second highest in the game, just right behind Sage, which is 30, so really not that far behind. 15% defense, which is really nice, and 25 resistance, which is great as well. And you have Grasping Void on this class as well. This is another one of those skills that can just do kind of accidental damage, as I like to call it. Another dexterity trigger. When attacking with a tome, may deal extra damage equals to half the foe's magic stat. This isn't like I think this is the worst by far of all of them, because it really only helps you if you're attacking another mage or so, because every other unit's not really going to have high magic. If they have low resistance, they're not going to have high magic, and if they have high magic, they're going to have really high resistance. So it's not the best, but it's kind of just like it's just a little bit more damage, you know. That's nice. It's really just the class being like a flying sage, and really tanky is really nice for her. Cupido is another one of these classes that's objectively just not good. If we look at the growths, first off, you have 5% strength, 5% magic, which doesn't make any sense. You do have the 20% dex and 20% speed, which is really nice, as well as 20% res. Just a little bit in defense and a little bit in HP. This is just objectively worse than Bow Knight, which also gives 20% dexterity, 20% speed, 15% resistance, so pretty close. Gives more luck, and gives 10% strength and just has a better strength base. It doesn't give you that magic, but like this 5% really doesn't do very much for him anyways. And then you still have the same HP growth, so just more strength. Bow Knight is just objectively better than Cupido, and the skill for Cupido is not very good. It's called Back At You. You are going to proc it a decent amount because you have high dex, but when countering, the unit may deal extra damage equal to half the damage taken. This is an archer. You don't want him taking damage. You don't want him getting counterattacked, and if you do, he's going to get really hurt. And I guess he can do more damage, but it's just kind of the wrong way to use an archer. And, you know, you get bows and swords. As a bow knight, you can have bow and swords, or you can have bows and lances, or bows and axes. So there's just more flexibility there. Bow Knight is just strictly better than Cupido, except in every regard except for the outfit. The outfit looks amazing. Tamara's Picket. Sandstorm is just really strong. Picket is just basically like a halberdier. Well, let's take a look at the growths here. With Picket, you have 15% strength growth, really nice. 20% in defense, 10% speed, 10% dexterity, 10% HP, and then 5 in build, which is really nice, and then luck and resistance. So a growth in everything, and 10 is nice. 15 in strength is really nice. 20% in speed helps really well with the class's frontliner kind of design, and also the personal skill of Sandstorm, which is where things get crazy. This is by far the best of all of these classes who have these skills. Sandstorm, while making a physical attack, may calculate damage with 150% of defense instead of strength. 100. So here's the crazy thing. First off, your defense honestly might end up being higher than your strength. That just kind of naturally happens for Tamara. And scale, even without that, scaling 150% of a stat is ridiculous. So if her defense is 20, if Sandstorm procs, it hits off of her defense and scales it by 150%. So instead of at 20, it's now hitting with a 30 base physical attack stat, or whatever it's calculating. So if her strength is 15, defense is 30, or if her defense is 20, essentially the defense, if Sandstorm triggers, you're getting double damage there. All of these abilities also trigger with crits too, and crits is also dexterity based, which is another reason why all of these are super good. Yeah, Sandstorm is amazing. Being lance locked and foot locked is not a bad thing at all, because being a backup, you can contribute to chain attacks, and lances are really strong in this game. I think they're the best weapon type, maybe outside of magic. Even then, probably better than magic, to be honest. So yeah, really amazing class. I'm going to call this one Sleipnir Rider? Sleipnir Rider? Whatever this is. Sleipnir. La 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 la. Sleipnir Rider is an alright class. You get 20% in magic, 15% in dex and speed, which is really nice, 30% resistance, and 15% luck. I do like the growths. Sadly, Hortensia's magic is really, really low. Her base magic is really low, and her growth isn't super high either, so she just won't be dealing much damage no matter what you do. The speed and the dexterity are nice. This class is similar to Lindworm, a flying sage essentially. You have tomes and staves, and your flyer, so you can position around. It's a little bit more, defensive oriented, or I guess Lindworm is like tanky and brawly. You're gonna kind of go up and like duke it out. Sleipnir Rider is more of a mage tank, high resistance, more speed. And the ability World Tree, when used as a staff, may not consume use. I believe this was actually tested and not actually work on every single staff ever. So this is a nice ability, but also just proper resource management doesn't really need this to happen. It's kind of just a random, hey, my heal didn't use, so it can potentially save you money, but it's nothing super crazy. The class just goes in good. If you really want to make Hortensia a stronger attacker, Sage will give her more attack, or Mage Knight, so she can use something like 11 Sword, which has really high might, or even Griffin Knight to use 11 Sword, which has really high might to keep her on staves. Hortensia herself is just a staff boss, so the class definitely helps her, but I wouldn't say it's anything above and beyond. One of the last signature classes, Feldchild. This is the exact same as Divine Dragon. I actually think it's better, because instead of being sword locked and sword and arts, you have knives and magic, which is really, really strong. This class gives 10% in strength, 25% in magic, 10 dexterity, 5% speed, 10 defense, 25 resistance, 10 HP. High magic to allow Veil in this class to chip. She's basically like a chip user. She also has the dragon tag. The Fel Dragon and Divine Dragon is the same kind of tag. So you have the same effects from emblems. So Veil uses emblems just as well as Alear. In fact, some of them a little bit better. Stuff like Celica works a lot better on her. I think something like Byleth might be a little bit better. Corrin is a lot better on her for all of those, just the magic stuff that unit can do. And the Fel Spirit ability, at the start of each turn, unit's engage meter is filled by 1. This is great. It kind of just lets you proc your engages immediately, and then you get it back even quicker when not using, when just attacking and doing your thing. It is. This is by far a great class in the game. If you could start with this class at the beginning of the game instead of Divine Dragon, it would be so much better. After watching PC Triumph do his reverse recruitment run, you just see how good it is. Yeah, daggers, it's just such nice chip. She even has a magic dagger, so she has a really nice chip there and can poison and stuff. And the last signature class, kind of signature, the dancer class is broken. Letting a unit act twice is broken, and then he also has healing and stat boosts on top of that, because for some reason the dancer gets his ability called Special Dance, which in FEngage, Fusing Dances grants Dex, Speed, and Luck +3 to the target. So just here you're faster, have more dexterity, two really important stats in this game. So absolutely ludicrous class. The only two signatures that just aren't very good are Avenir and Cupido. Alrighty, now that we got that chunk out of the way, let us get into the advanced classes. Now I don't know exactly which order I want to go into this with. So let's just kind of start here. Let's start with armor, because armor is one thing I want to get out of the way as not a very good class. I guess I should go over some of the other tiers here. So some things you might see here. Niche / for fun is exactly what it sounds like. It's not bad. It's not objectively not good. There is use for it. It's just not necessarily good, I guess I would say. So that's kind of a weird one. I'll explain it when I put any classes in there. Leveling up for high percentage growth rates. This is going to be two classes that have 30% growth rate in a stat, and we'll get there. But that is if you're really trying to level a unit and get a certain stat up higher. They are good for that. But then I would recommend, there's classes like Sage gives 30% magic. Sniper gives 30% dexterity, Barbarian, or Berserker, gives 30% HP, Strength gives 10 build, and High Priest gives like 30% luck, which is really nice for someone like Anna. I'll go over the classes I put in there, but the reason I have them in this separate tier is I don't think these classes are good for, end game. I think after a while of leveling and getting that stat up higher, you want to switch out into something better. But I do have them there because of the leveling growths and everything there. Alright, so let's separate this. So kind of separate the classes from the ones to be ranked. So start with armor. Armor in this game is objectively not good because I'm going to put both Great Knight and General here. General is the best if you insist on using this. The reason it's not very good is... And this is all considering maddening, I should say. Hopefully you guys kind of understand from the beginning. But in maddening specifically, and even in like hard mode, armor knights, because they're so slow, are going to get doubled because of chain attacks. They can just get whittled down even if people are hitting them for 0. And they kind of run up an enemy phase, and so they're going to get chain attacked a bunch. And the enemy AI will prioritize this. So your tanks are going to get whittled down no matter what. There is so much random magic in the game. Hybrid units and sword masters that have Levin swords, or just enemies that have like hammers or armor slayers to get through all of this. And the Great Knight even has a worse chance of it, honestly, because there is also things like the pole axe and Rider's Bane, so you have another weakness you have to worry about. Although, Great Knight does give a little bit more mobility and weapon triangle advantage, but the General also can't be broken. The armor tag is nice that you're not susceptible to the break mechanic of this game, which does help you enemy phase. So I do think if you insist on doing it, the General is a little bit better, but you're just going to get whittled down, and a lot of bosses, and even just some enemies, will have such high strength that no matter how high your defense is, if you're getting doubled, you just still take so much damage. So general phase tanking is just not strong enough in this game. It's so much better to throw a unit that's fast and tanky, like someone like Diamant, Alir, even someone like Ivy, Tamara especially, who have the high defenses but also high speed to not get doubled and just take less damage overall. And there's other ways to mitigate taking damage, such as using things like Corrin's emblem to use the veins to stop them from getting to you, or staves like freezing, or even just like using the emblems to to kill scary enemies before they get to you. Enemy face tanking is just not the way to do it. If you insist on doing it, there's a better class, which we'll talk about here in a bit. The Royal Knight is one of the first like niche for fun classes. It's being on a horseback. The growth rates are nice. Being basically a paladin that can use staves is nice. It does give you a little bit of magic as well. The growths are nothing to complain about. So 10% strength, 15% magic, 15 dex, and speed is both really, really nice. The same thing as like paladin. They actually get a little bit more dex, but a little bit less strength. The 15 magic is nice. 20% resistance, 10 luck. This is kind of, I want to say it's niche because this is more like if you want to build maybe a flame lance unit, a unit with higher magic to use, you know, the flame lance to deal, or even like a mage to use the flame lance. But it's not as good as something like the Mage Knight, which is just strictly better at being a magical unit, or the Griffin Knight is just a stark upgrade to it. The only thing about Royal Knight is it's not weak to bows, which still isn't even that big of a deal. So it's niche. It's not an objectively bad class. Like, it is just better. It's better than something like Avenir because you do have staves, and that flexibility of being able to, you know, go up and deal damage and also heal is good. It's just not that. It's not very. It's more niche, and like, yeah, if you want to make a unit for fun, like someone like Chloe with a flame lance, who usually goes in like Griffin Knight, and you want to put her on horseback instead, and still let her, you know, have higher magic and stuff, can go into this, and it's kind of like niche and still could work out pretty well. Paladin. Let's talk about Paladin. Paladin is a very good class. I'm gonna put it in just good, not great, because it as a class usually kind of suffers to there's always another class that's a better option, but it's never a bad option. It's a very generalist class because it gives you the 15 in every stat minus magic. So the 15 strength can help patch or fix some units who have not so great strength growth. The 15 speed helps patch the speed up a little bit and gives great defenses. It gives very good stats. Giving you 6 move is great. The cavalry unit type can do some fun things on certain emblems, such as like Sigurd. You get extra movement just by having Sigurd equipped, and then there's some other things I know, like Camilla. There's something with DLC, plenty of things like that. So the cavalry, there's some fun things to go with. It is only one weapon locked, but it does at least get the S rank. The sad thing about it is it's usually just a little bit worse than something like Wyvern, or if you want to get the S rank in a weapon, Griffin is usually a better class if you want to be on a mount, have that 6 movement, and have an S rank in a certain weapon. Honestly, the fact that Griffin has S rank in a weapon while also having staves is kind of criminal, in my opinion. But Paladin is certainly not bad. I guess I should have gone over the Royal Knight. So the characters that can make a good Royal Knight, you can go for someone like Alfred is, I'd say, like an alternate. Same with someone like Amber, just because they are lance users, I wouldn't necessarily recommend it. Benet, somewhat similar thing. I think the best cases to make this class work would be someone like Chloe. Obviously, Mavier does very nice on this class. Louis could maybe be going on here as like an alternate, I would say. Other characters that could be okay on it, I would say like Chloe and Mavier are the best as like using like a flame lance. Maybe another unit that has like high build with a flame lance, like Pandreo has pretty high build and he could do it pretty well. Maybe someone like Fogato, who already has the high speed, give him a little bit build, he could do pretty okay. I maybe put him as like an alternate in this class. They all do pretty okay. That's for Royal Knight. As for Paladin, I think the Paladin class, there's a lot of units that do well in it. Someone like Louis, I think is an alternate. That's kind of a way to help fix his speed at least a little bit if you want to try to use him long term, because armor just doesn't work out too well. Paladin is just a better class for someone like Alfred, because his Avenir class is just not very good. It helps out someone like Benet be a little bit better. Can help Amber in his speed a little bit better. It has enough strength to let Fogato have more damage output. Chloe goes on there very well. Alir can be a very nice paladin, just getting, you know, off of that 5 move going to 6 move and still having swords. Boucheron as an axe paladin actually ends up being really nice. It gives enough strength to help his lower strength and still have good speed. Similar with Diamant, he can go either sword or I recommend maybe axes for him. Can be a nice paladin. Jade isn't a bad idea. It's kind of the same thing as Louis. Since paladin does have pretty much every stat being 15%, Jean on here would have 30% gross on all of these stats, so you'd have 30% strength, making him go to 50, 30% speed, making him go to 70 speed, 30% defense, which I think gives him to 50 defense or so. So Jean would make an amazing paladin. Kagetsu goes on the paladin very well. Lapis is not a bad paladin either. If you want to give Marin some more damage, similar to Lapis and Fogado, she goes well on here. Panette goes very well on here. Rosado. It's a very, very flexible class. Obviously, Vander's an alternate. Vander does better on a different class. Mavier, if you want to make him physical, Paladin is a great way to go. Clan could really benefit from Paladin, giving him, kind of helping him patch his stats. Gold Mary can benefit from it. Pretty much every physical unit, I would say. Maybe like not Saphir. Tamara would make a good paladin, but Pigot's just so much better. But I still will throw her on there, I guess. If you wanted to go for like Yunaka with a crit build could work. Paladin just works for everyone, and that's why it's so just good. It's this very Swiss Army knife class. It's like, oh, I don't necessarily know where to put them in. Put them on Paladin. It's probably going to be fine for them. Alright, next up. And then Paladin also does have Pivot, which is a nice little skill. It just lets you reposition somebody. You move on the opposite side of an ally. Just a nice little repositioning, gives you a little bit more movement. Alright, let me clear this out real quick. Alright, on to the next class. Wolf Knight is somewhere between good and great. It gives you access to daggers alongside of any of the martial weapons, lance, sword, or axe. You do not get S rank in those axes, in those weapons. You can get S rank in daggers if you have a proficiency, so someone like Marin, Panette, which is funny that she has dagger proficiency, Yunaka and Zelkov also get there. I'm going to throw it in. I'll throw it in great because daggers are very good. If you forge them, they get just so much more might than they should because they get + 2 might on every forge level, which is really crazy. So that scales really, really quickly. Let's take a look at the growths. This is a class that I recommend you can put units into if you want to try to fix their speed. Gives that maximum 20% speed growth addition, as well as a nice 15% to dex. Only 5% strength, which is one of the biggest drawbacks to this class, is going to be the weakest physical class in terms of strength growth. Does give you nice resistance and luck, and then decent HP there. As for skills, it does get a really fun skill in Hobble, which helps you with kind of just chipping, this kind of chip and dip playstyle. What you do with Hobble is, once you hit level 5, if you initiate combat with a knife, which is a little unfortunate, it has to be a knife, not the other weapon, but with a knife, inflicts move -2 on the foe for 1 turn. You also, when you attack with a knife, you poison them, so throw on something like Draconic Hex and you can have a triple debuff, which is really nice, and just nice chip, and then sets up the rest of your army for kills. I will put it in great. As for who makes good Wolf Knights, you need to have a unit that already has fine strength on their own, because this class will not help with strength at all, but it will help patch speed. So somebody like Chloe is already so fast, she needs a little bit more help in strength or even magic. She's not going to be very good in this class, but instead somebody who has good strength like Alfred, who could use more speed, Amber even, who could use some more speed to help out, would make good Wolf Knights. Someone like Benet could also, that can maybe be a way to make him work out a little bit better. Clan, I would say, is like an alternate Wolf Knight. Diamant could work. I don't think his strength is quite as amazing, but like it could, as like maybe like an axe. Wolf Knight could be okay. Someone like Fogado is just a little bit doesn't have enough strength. Gold Mary could be alright if you kind of try to run this like frontliner Wolf Knight. Same with like Jade could be alright. Jean is a unit that won't do very good in it because it doesn't give him enough strength. You wanna utilize a class like Paladin that has just better growths all around. The speed would be crazy, but he wouldn't have enough strength. Wolf Knight Kagetsu is really strong actually. He just ends up being a better Marin once you get him the dagger proficiency. Funny enough. Lapis is a little bit too weak for it. Someone like Louis could be pretty nice, kind of like the same as Jade. Kind of patching up that speed. He is strong enough and could be, you know, a nice little frontliner Wolf Knight. I think Alir makes a good Wolf Knight as well. Mavier could do fine on there. Obviously, Marin makes for a great Wolf Knight. Panette is actually a really good Wolf Knight as well. She second seals into it for free because she has the proficiency in knives, and she actually gets the S rank knives, and has, you know, build and the strength to do a lot of damage with some of the really strong later melee knives as well, and you still have the access to deal good chip damage there. Knives do lend really well to like crit builds, so Panette does make actually a really nice Wolf Knight. Funny enough. Someone like Saphir could be fine on there. Rosado would be fine as a Wolf Knight, although the thing with Rosado is his base strength growth is pretty low, but his base strength is pretty low, but the strength growth is tied for the highest in the game with characters like Amber and Panette, so he can work out just fine. Veil on Wolf Knight is okay if you just kind of want to commit to using the daggers and do a little bit more debuff. It's more than fine. Vander on Wolf Knight could give him a little bit more things to do if you want to use him long term. And both Yunaka and Zelkov as other dagger units, if you don't want to use the Thief, they make fine Wolf Knights just as well. So there's a lot of units that can go into it well, but not quite as much as Paladin because you need a little bit more strength that some characters just don't have. Alright, so next up, Wyvern Knight. This is one of the best classes in the game. Real quick, we can just leave a lot of these units here. I'll just move the ones that don't make good Wyvern Knights. Like Zelkov, you wouldn't really want to put him in Wyvern Knight. All of these guys here would want to go into Wyvern Knight. Who else? Honestly, all Chris could be fine. Boucheron wants to be a Wyvern Knight. Chloe, Celine could be a Wyvern Knight, funny enough. Fogado loves to be a Wyvern. Fran would be a great Wyvern. Etier could be a solid Wyvern. Jean is great. Lapis it's her best class. Tamara, she would be great in it. Everyone that is a physical unit, all Chris could be a Wyvern Knight is just an amazing class. So let's go over why. First off with growths. 20% HP, 20% strength, 20% defense. This is amazing for frontliners. It only gives 5% speed, but we'll go over the skill, which kind of gives you more speed, which is funny. 10% dex is nice, and then 5% build is kind of a standout. Getting more build on your units, it's just nice. Just get some, you know, less speed drawback, I guess. Wyvern Knight is a flying class, so you have all of that positioning advantages. You get access to 2 of the 3 martial weapons: lance, axe, or sword. 2 of those 3. B rank in all of them, but if you have a proficiency, you do go up to A, which A rank does let you wield brave weapons, and B rank lets you use silver weapons, so you have access to a ton of weapons there. You are dragon unit, which does the only thing it doesn't help your emblems or anything like that, but it does give you an extra weakness to Wormslayer, but that's really not that big of a deal with everything that this class has. And it has Air Raid, which is a really cool ability. If the unit initiates combat from a space the foe cannot enter, grants speed +5 during that combat. So if you're not fighting another flyer and you go onto a terrain that says flyers only, you get +5 speed. That is +5 speed. 5 speed is the threshold to doubling things. So if you have the exact same speed as an enemy, you now double them. So that 5% speed growth it gives you, yeah, that's kind of a lie. Plus the bases in this class are really strong. It's one of the best classes in the game. Everyone makes a good Wyvern. That's kind of just how Fire Emblem always is. The Wyverns are always the best class ever. They just always are. Griffin Knight is very similarly great. A lot of these characters that make good wyverns make good griffins, as it patches speed. The only characters I would say don't make good griffins, I don't know, you wouldn't really put Zelkov there, but all of the magic units can very easily go into Griffin and do well with like a Levin sword and the staves that you have. Griffin, you wouldn't want to go like Boucheron. Okay, I'll take things away. Boucheron doesn't really have the strength for something like Griffin. Diamant could be fine in it. Vander could be fine in it. It actually is a great pick for someone like Alfred and Amber. It helps patch Louis' strength. You wouldn't necessarily take Marin into it, but you could if you wanted to use her like Levin Sword E. Rosato's strength, I would say you want to... The strength, the low base strength isn't super good there. Lapis doesn't have the best strength. You'd rather just put her in something like Wyvern. Wyvern's just a little just better for her. Griffin Knight Fram is also... It's still alright. You would want to go something a little bit more strength-based for someone like Fogado. Tamara, kind of the same thing, I guess, if you insisted on reclassing her out of Picket for whatever reason. Allcrest, I don't see why you would do this, personally. And, yeah, everyone else just kind of makes a great Griffin. Someone like Mavier is the perfect reclass for him. If you were to try to make Louis' speed work later on, you can try with Griffin. It will honestly work out fine. It's one of the few ways I've seen someone like Jade be used to good success. Obviously, Chloe makes a really good Griffin. It's a great class for someone like Jean to be just super high speed unit. There's plenty of... It's such a flexible class. It's one of the best classes in the game as well, just like Wyvern. Flyers are just always the best in Engage. In Fire Emblem, they're just always the best. And also the skill for Griffin, so you have one of the 3 martial weapons. You have S rank in that if you're proficient, which is crazy. Otherwise, you have A, which gives you access to brave axes or brave weapons and everything below. You also have access to, I think it's like C staves, which gives you a lot of things. You can use physic, you can use, I believe, rescue and rewarp and things like obstruct. So you still have plenty of things. If you have a proficiency in staves, someone like, I think, Pandrail or Hortensia, you get to B rank, and then you have things like warp. And then the ability Clear the Way. If the unit's space and adjacent spaces have movement cost of 1 for abilities. So if you land your Griffin Knight near Force or something, they won't have that movement cost, like that movement, the 2 movement cost or whatever it is to get through a forest. That's like it's decent. Doesn't really do anything crazy, but it's nice. You'll notice it when it's there. Let me clear this out real quick. So yeah, for the 2 fire classes, Wyvern and Griffin, they are some of the best classes in the game. It really just depends on whether you want to fix a unit's strength and make their frontline stats a little bit better, or fix their speed and maybe give them a little bit of utility, maybe go a more magical route with Griffin. Because I didn't mention, but Griffin also gives 15% magic, along with still having 10% strength. So giving a little bit of strength there, but the nice magic growth as well. On to the next, Martial Monk. This is... As much as I've tried to make it work, it is really just niche / for fun. It's fun to punch things. It can be strong. And Chain Guard is nice. Chain Guard almost makes me want to put it good. It's bouncing somewhere between here. It's a super support class, but... You know, Chain Guard also just... It's not as good as Lucina's Bonded Shield. That Bonded Shield is just better. And, you know, having... Chain Guard is on your healer, so you have to run multiple healers... which you should be doing, but so the other healers can heal your healers to support, which is a little awkward. It is good though. Chain Guard is good. If you could Chain Guard on a class like High Priest, that would be better, and also have like 1-2 range. Instead you're locked to 1 range, which is a little bit disappointing. I think the real kicker for Martial Monk is how low the speed goes. The cap is really low. I think it caps at like 28, which is really unfortunate. Fast units will hit that, and when you're using something like Fist and Arts, you want, which is a brave weapon essentially, you want to be doubling, so you're quadding. Arts is also, it's pretty interesting. It calculates the damage based off your physical and special attack, or physical and magic attack. I almost went Pokemon there for a second. and then divides that kind of by 2. So it adds your physical and magic attack and then divides that by 2, or something along those lines. So you need characters who have kind of these mixed growths. Like Alear somewhat has these mixed growths, someone more like Fram, who's got the 25-30, Saline, who's got the 25-35, Chloe, Yunaka. Not someone like Citrine, who's got pretty lopsided growths, maybe someone more like Lapis. Even Jade, funny enough, because she has decent magic. Ivy could make a decent one, Fogado, Tamara, Marin, Hortensia, but not really. Rosado is a little bit more lopsided, but it has like the good magic to keep up there. Jean, Mavier, Vale, Linden, my boy Linden. So let's go over the skills. The skill for Martial Master, Diffuse Healer. When the unit is healed by a staff, all adjacent allies also recover up to 50 HP, for 50% of HP that the unit recovered. So if your other healer heals you, which you kind of have to do with chain guards, everyone around also gets a little bit of healing. That is nice. That does help, the chain guard usage up a little bit. I could maybe put it. I guess I'll put it in. No, I'll leave it down here for like niche for fun. It still just is niche for fun. There's just better healing. There's better staff classes like Griffin and Slipknot Rider and Lindworm and Vita May and Sage. Even High Priest maybe be a little bit better. I'm not sure about that. I don't know about that, but like it's maybe better than like Royal Knight. As for units to make a good Martial Master, you want characters that still are going to be fast, that also have, that pretty split magic and strength growth. You still want them to be fast so that they can be doubling, even if they hit their cap. And then you use a Flashing Fist art, which gives you another +5 speed. That does go over that 28 cap, and then also, if you throw an emblem or a bond ring, that gives you even more speed there. Someone like an emblem like Erica, who can ignore defense, actually adds a lot more damage there. So you do want to still quad. So somebody who's not super fast like Amber would not make a good Martial Master. You want someone who's like Chloe, who has good speed and split magic and strength. Somebody like Saline is good there, although her speed isn't quite as amazing. It's still not bad. I think she's 45? Yeah, 45. It will be fine for her. Fogado makes a pretty good Martial Master, a little bit weaker. Fram makes an alright one. Actually kind of goes into it pretty easily. Ivy, Jean can go in there. Well, Linden goes pretty well. I believe he has decent strength growth. 25% strength growth. So yeah, he makes a decent Martial Master if you want an old man punching everybody. Lapis could be okay in there. Alear actually is pretty fine. Mavier is one of the best picks, I think. I think he's one of the better picks for that. Marin does very well into it, actually. Rosado could be good. Vale wouldn't be a bad option. And then Yunaka is also pretty nice. And then she also gets that added crit in case you're in some terrain. She gets some crit there, which is pretty fun. Jade could be okay. You're really lacking the speed there, but if you just want to go for like the Brave and, I don't know, she'd be a tankier healer, that could be okay. For Jade, that's kind of one of the few things I'm thinking that might be a way to make her work. Even though Clan is someone that is a kind of hybrid unit at the beginning, same with like Anna, he has such low magic growth that once you reclass him into something else, his magic just won't keep up. So he could work out. It would also be fun just to have, the voice actor of Deku punch things like Deku. That's kind of for fun. Anna, somewhat similar thing. She's kind of like a hybrid class. She's like a hybrid unit. She starts physical but wants to go to magic. But once you switch her over, her strength won't really keep up as well, so I wouldn't totally recommend her go in that direction. Alrighty, so High Priest is one of the first ones. Leveling up for high percentages. High Priest just is worse than Sage in every single way. Getting arts is just not a big deal. You'd rather just have high magic and use S-rank tomes because you only have like B-rank tomes. And it's not worth dedicating to healer slot. It's mystical, so instead of, being Chi Adept and being able to chain guard, it's just worse than Sage in every single way. I have it in here though because instead of objectively not being, it's not an objectively bad class. It would be like at the bottom of niche, but it is the best class for leveling up someone like Anna. So let's go over here. I'm getting Anna's luck stat high enough to consistently proc her ability to make you some more money. So the best unit for High Priest, if you want to keep her there, is definitely Anna. Some alternates to it though is Jade. High Priest is a great class for Jade to go into for just the general growths, as it gives the 25% magic, which is great. It gives a little bit of speed, which Jade will double, so he gets to 50 speed there. The high resistance and high luck, but generally Sage is just better for all of that. Sage or Mage Knight are just better overall. So I would say the best unit is Anna. Alternate would be someone like Jade for a little bit. Obviously Pandreo is fine if you just leave him in there. You could take Mavier there if you wanted to use arts, but then also have tomes just in case, but you just won't be able to you won't fully commit to either one. So it could be okay for someone like Mavier. Maybe like Linden would be fine here. Fram, this is a better pick for her. Saline could go fine in it. Pretty much all of these magic units would be more than fine High Priests. Just not the best pick overall. Someone like Citrine would just be better on Sage or Mage Knight or something else. Even like Yunaka, Chloe, if you wanted to make them magical units, they could be okay. Rosado, if you insist. Fogado, if you insist. Yeah, I'd say, yeah, not the best class ever, but it is nice for leveling up that luck percent for Anna more specifically. And for Sage, it's a great class. It's an amazing magic class. Take all of these mages, put them up here. Anyone who wants to be in magic, Sage is one of the best classes for it ever. Saline, I would say, is alternate. She's a little bit better as like a physical unit because her strength is a little bit higher, the 35. If you did reclass her out of Vitame, I think she would just be better on something like a Griffin, but she could work. Hortensia would be good there. Citrine is an amazing Sage. She has really high magic growth. Same with like Veil if you wanted to just go all in with the magic. Yunaka, Chloe could make good Sages. Rosado, I would also recommend not doing it. If you wanted to go the magic route with Fogado just for fun, you totally could, and Sage would be fine. Same with like a character like Marin, maybe Lapis, who have the decent magic growth. If you wanted to do it, they really just make better physical with their bases, but they can make it work. And Jade, I don't know. her growths really aren't good enough to make a good Sage, but she could, I guess. Like, she doesn't have the speed, but she could, I guess, that 30% speed. Man, Jade is just so bad. She's so bad. Sorry, a little tangent there, but Sage is a really good class. You wouldn't really switch off someone like Ivy, or I don't think you would switch off somebody like Veil or Saline to go to Sage, but you could if you wanted to. So I would put these guys like, I guess, an alternate. And like Ivy, I guess, would be like more of an alternate. But Sage is really good class for someone like Anna. Makes really good Jade. Pandreo goes there perfectly. Linden already is a Sage and does really well there. Yeah. Oops. Change that to Sage. Alright, and for the ability of Sage, this is an interesting one. I don't think it's super good, but it's nice. Just additional damage. It is, what is it called? It is called, where is it? Where is Sage? Spell Harmony. So you have tomes and staves. If unit initiates combat with a tome, grants attack equal to the number of adjacent allies with tomes. It has to be adjacent, so you kind of have to like death ball your mages, which is weird. It only really helps with like bosses, but magic is good enough that you could have a couple different magic users. Like you could have Veil who runs magic, Saline who has magic kind of on the side, Ivy with magic, a Sage or two. Maybe a Mage Knight, and that's like 5. So that's about 5 attack there, kind of just on accident, if you insist. So it's not awful. It's just random. It's just like kind of a random +5, more like +2 or 3 to your attack stat. Mage Knight goes right next to Sage, and every single character that makes a good Sage makes a good Mage Knight as well, except for more of the physical units can kind of go there for more of a hybrid feel if you want to kind of dive into magic a little bit too. So somebody like Jade or Rosado could still be pretty good there. These kind of mixed units like Fogado, Marin, Lapis, Saline make better Mage Knights, but Griffin is usually a little bit better. And then these characters that are all just pure physical, there's no reason to take him into Magic. Clan does go better into Mage Knight, but he really just wants to go all the way physical instead. So yeah, Mage Knight pretty much the same as Sage, just kind of depends on if you want Mage Sage. It depends on if you want a little bit more speed, because the Mage Knight gives, you have 25% magic growth instead of the Sage's 30. So 25 instead of the 30, but you get 5% speed instead of, I guess, like Dex. And the skill, Chaos Style, is a really fun one. If the unit initiates combat with a physical attack against a foe armed with magic, or vice versa, grants +3 speed during combat. So if you're attacking a mage with a sword, let's say like a silver sword, you get +3. Or if you're attacking a armor knight with a tome, then you get +3 speed. And just a nice additional speed to basically what you're going to be doing anyways. You're going to be attacking mages with a physical weapon. You're going to be attacking every physical enemy ever, except for maybe like a Griffin Knight with the tome. Even then, like Griffin Knight with like Elwind, you're going to use it with the tome, so you're just going to get extra speed there. So that is very, very nice. Mage Knight goes right next to Sage. It just depends on if you need the staff usage or you want to go like Levin Sword or something. Both are really, really strong. Bow Knight. Bow Knight to me is a lot like Paladin. There is a bunch of units that go into it pretty well. I don't think it's quite as much of a generalist, but there's just plenty of units that do well in it. There's good reasons to use it, but it's also not the most amazing class in the game. If we go over the growth rates first off, Bow Knight right here, you get 10% HP, 10% strength, which is nice. The 20% dex and speed, which is really, really cool because that's the highest speed growth in the game, tied with a couple other classes. And then the 15% luck and resistance. The class also gives access to A rank in bow. With proficiency, I think even stays at A rank. And then you also have martial weapon, which is C, but it goes up to B with proficiency. And C, you still have access to steel weapons. With B, you get silver. That's kind of the only jump there. You still don't have brave weapons, but you'll still be able to use strong. Like a silver or steel weapons are still strong. The ability is Careful Aim. This is not super amazing, but it has a nice effect. If your user initiates combat without moving first, grants hit plus 40 during combat. That's a huge buff. Hit plus 40 is really crazy. So if you just need to hit something, you can set yourself up to not move or run up to them, try to attack them, let's say you miss, and then you dance your Bow Knight. You don't have to move again. You get hit plus 40, so that's nice. As for users of the Bow Knight class, I think characters that make good Bow Knights, honestly, Anna could be okay if you want to use her bow proficiency. Probably not, though. She's just much better in a magic class. Let's kind of clear this out real quick. And clean this up. So, some of the best Bow Knights in the game. Alchrist could be okay. I don't see a reason to ever go out of his personal class tier or delete. But if you want to put him horseback, you could do it. I'd keep him alternate. I think Bow Knight is a great way to use someone like Amber and Alfred who could use the extra speed, and also getting bows just gives them a different identity to help them one-shot things like they can one-shot flyers and deal a lot of damage to things safely. I think Amber makes a better Bow Knight than someone like Alfred, Alfred could go in the front lines a little bit more. Amber is more of a backline attacker and wants to be safe, so Bow Knight's a great use for him. Other classes, someone like Boucheron doesn't want to go into Bow Knight, doesn't give him enough strength. Same with like Chloe. You could do it with Chloe if you want to give her bows for whatever reason. It's kind of just like more for fun, but it still is solid there. Diamant can go into Bow Knight. It still gives him a good amount of strength and helps kind of fix his speed and make him start doubling things. He could easily go into an axe or sword Bow Knight. We could run like A ranks or B rank swords, so still run like silver sword with a bow. Or you can go axes and run like a steel axe. I think he still run a Tomahawk, I believe. Someone like Clan is more of like an alternate. He could be an okay Bow Knight. Etier, this is a great one for her. Helps patch her speed since she's going to have high strength. Basically the same thing as Amber. This is a great thing to do with her and give her more movement and like throw cancer on her. Let her be a little bit more, you know, safe and be more mobile as a squishy archer. Gold Mary could be alright for her, although she's more of a frontliner, so I put her alternate. Fogado, it's just a Stark upgrade to Cupido, so if you want to keep him as like a Bow Knight archetype, Bow Knight's just great for him. Characters, Jade, this could help her patch her speed and make her a little bit better, but she's kind of like Gold Mary. She has the defense, so she'd probably be more of a frontliner. The growth rates lend very well to someone like Jean. Kagetsu makes a very nice Bow Knight as well. Lapis could be okay. I think she wants more strength, kind of like Chloe. I think both of them want more strength from like Wyvern Knight, or I guess like the Griffin Knight's magic growth for someone like Chloe. Yeah, Lapis wants a little bit more strength, but it could be okay. I think I see a little bit more for someone like Lapis more than like Chloe. This could be another reason to use Louis, although it's kind of like the same thing as Jade. I think Bow Knight is one of the best ways to use a Lear. Bow Knight with Lucina and Longbow, dual assist, all that stuff is really strong, and you Bonded Shield have 100% protection against or for your other cavalry allies. This is a great way to use Mavier in the late game, just for some extra chip and stuff. Marin, kind of like Lapis. I think you're just better off in Wolf Knight, but you could go there if you want to. This could be a decent class for someone like Panette. Rosado and Saphir, both lends to them pretty well. I don't see a reason to ever put Tamara into it, but I guess you could. You could go for it on someone like Yunaka if you end up reclassing her. I think she's just better on Sniper for crit builds or another class for crit builds, but you could do it. It works out fine. So yeah, I think of Bow Knight as kind of like a Paladin. I think it's a little bit... I don't know if it's better or worse than Paladin. I think they're both just good classes. Nothing wrong with them. Just nothing super like spectacular about them either. So let's go with a Sniper. Sniper is a great class. For those who just want to specialize in bows, it lends itself really well to crit builds. It is covert, so you can hide yourself in a bush in case you're ever getting attacked and get that extra avoid. Let me clear this out real quick and go into Sniper. So let's look at the growth rates here real quick. We kind of looked at it earlier. You get 15% strength, which is great. 30% dexterity, which is awesome. You get a little bit of speed and defense, a little bit of luck, and 15% HP. As for the skill, you do get S rank in bows no matter what. You have no distraction. Grants crit plus 10 during combat with a foe that cannot counter. So with a longbow, that's pretty much everybody except for thunder mages, and with a bow, that's every unit that is stuck to one range, or even like a mini bow on another archer. You get plus 10 crit, just free crit on. This is how you're going to be using a sniper, so lends itself very well to crit builds. So for that reason, I think the best snipers are the ones that make just super good crit bots, which I would say are these four here. Yunaka and Panette have that extra crit in their personal skills. Kagetsu has really high dexterity, and so does Jean. Jean will have like a 95% dexterity growth as a sniper, and I have used it before, and he was a crit monster. This also is great for someone like Etier, who's just, safe chip and can lend to crit builds to help her out a little bit more. Fogado has enough speed that he'll be doubling, and he also has good dexterity, so he can also run a crit build on here with bows. If you wanted to kind of full commit someone like Amber and use his high strength with the bows and go for a crit build there as well, it's just like strong, high strength, or high damage chip that can also run crits really, really well. Is kind of just the whole thing about snipers. So someone like Saphir can run that pretty well. I think it's more of an alternate. Warrior is just maybe a little bit better for someone like her. Sniper is a decent way to use kind of all of these other fast units that aren't always the tankiest. Someone like Clan could be okay here. Sniper is just worse than tiered elite for all Chris because Luna is just so valuable, but it still would be good on there. Alir, I don't see a reason to ever put him there. Alfred, I don't see a reason to ever put him there. I don't think there's any other units I would necessarily switch over to Sniper. Anna, you could do if you fully committed to like the Radiant Bow or something. I think she's just much better in Magic, so I wouldn't necessarily put her there. So yeah, these characters that have the high crits or the bow proficiencies, or even just someone like Amber for like the high chip and stuff. Sniper is a great class. You want to have, I would say, you want to go for like, you definitely want to have at least one bow user on the team. I think 2 is a great way to go. So definitely want to put at least one archer on your team. Warrior, I'm going to put in great. This is probably the best axe class outside of, I guess, Wyvern, but not even every Wyvern wants to run axes. Typically, they just want to be running like lances and even sometimes swords to have a little bit better chances of doubling and such. Warrior gives really good gross. Let's take a look here. You get 25 HP, 20% strength, a little bit lower than Berserker, but still really high strength. 10% dexterity, 15% speed, so really nice speed growth there too. 10% defense, and 5% build. 5% resistance. It has a higher speed cap than Berserker, which is just strictly better. So if you have someone in Berserker, switch them over to Warrior. It's just more worth it. The S rank axe is a smash weapon, which is only good if you're using Ike's Great Ether, as no other emblem really uses the axes besides like Hector, but Hector needs an axe that can double, so axes just aren't in a great position because they just don't use emblems well, and they're all really heavy and inaccurate. So the option to also have bows is just so much better for Warrior. Also, the skill is a lot better too. Unit deals, for Merciless, unit deals 50% damage against broken foes. Use a Fracture Staff, and boom, there you go. Now you have 50% damage. That's really easy to set up extra damage on to basically anybody. As for who makes good warriors, they also lend to good crit builds, so I would pretty much leave everyone here makes a great warrior and move some units up a little bit more. Someone like Jade could be a better warrior. I think Diamant could be a pretty good warrior. It's a great class for someone like Boucheron, maybe something better for Benet to do. Rosado wouldn't be bad if you want to keep Rosado on axes. That would be a great class for them to go into. Vander could also make a pretty good warrior if you want to keep using Vander. I think warrior is the best way to use him. After all of my testing with him, Anna makes okay, but you really just want to go into Magic with her. Alir's not bad, but you want to stay on swords for Liberation and the 1-2 range sword later. And I don't think there's really much other units that would want to go onto warrior for any reason. It's also really cool that warrior is a backup class that has access to the longbow, so you have 3 ranged chain attacks, which is really helpful for just whittling down bosses. So warrior is a great class for sure. Berserker goes into the leveling up high percent category. This is for the units that want to level up their strength, because you have the 30% strength growth. The 30% HP definitely doesn't hurt. You still do have 10% speed, so you're not gaining speed, and that 10% build is really nice. The only other class that gives that is General, which you'd rather go into Berserker to level up strength. This is good for somebody like, let me change this here. Someone like Jean, who wants to level up their strength. Panette, who goes for just full-on one-shot builds. Somebody like maybe Amber to get her more strength. Even Diamant could be fine in there for a while. Etier for going for one-shot builds. Amber for going one-shot builds if you want to get Saphir's strength up a little bit more, but it's kind of redundant at that point. Rosado would have a ludicrous strength growth in that class. You want to get Vander's strength growth up more if you're using him. Same with Boucheron. Outside of that, you could maybe try to level up someone like Lapis, Chloe, who have lower strength growth. Marin, I guess, Fogado. You could do it for a little while. I don't think it's that worth it, though. I would really just do it more for like the characters you're going to put into warrior or put into an axe class that's better. You just kind of let them level there for a little bit. They give them maybe, I don't know, 3 extra points of strength, and then you switch over to like paladin or something. So that's really the best use case for that. Swordmaster is, I'm gonna say it's just niche or for fun. It's really nothing special. It doesn't really lend itself to like extra crit builds like it has in the series kind of prior to this. You get the ability Run Through. You have S rank swords, you get this ability Run Through when used to attack an adjacent foe and then move to the space opposite of that foe. So you get to pass them. This does help you set up like pincer attack with halberdier, but really nothing more than that. There's other ways to set that up with just basic positioning. And the sword locked, you wouldn't necessarily want to be sword locked. If you want to be S rank sword, you just want to be on a class like Griffin Knight or Paladin. Really is just better for that. Even classes like Diamant's class, he's gonna have S rank sword. Alir is just gonna have S rank sword from Divine Dragon. And going into a class like Hero, Wyvern Knight, there's just better classes to go into. So I'm gonna leave in the niche for fun. It's super stylish because when you crit, you do that anime like barely open the sword and close it real quick, and oh, you're already dead. Haha. It looks super cool. And Kagetsu is more than fine into it if you want to stay there. The growths are very nice though. It does have good growths. The 10% strength is pretty good. 10% HP. The 15% dex. It does have that 20% speed. Funny enough, it's the same growth as Sword Fighter. That 5% extra in luck doesn't really matter, but you do get the stat buffs there. But generally, the characters that you want to put in class that increase their speed, there's just better classes that give them a little bit more strength, like Griffin, that still let them use like lances or something. You're kind of just giving up damage for no real reason. But if you want to use a Swordmaster, I think the best units to do this, Jean does very well in this class. You wouldn't want to put someone like Amber into it. It's funny to do Vander in it because he looks like Obi-Wan Kenobi. I don't know why. It makes me feel that way at least. Characters like Diamant could make a good Swordmaster if you want to just go full on sword and give him more speed, but honestly, Successor is going to give him more speed and also axes. It's decent for Alir if you want to make Alir a backup unit, although Hero is generally just better because you don't need to be S rank sword for Alir since all of their personal swords are just theirs basically. Gold Mary makes a decent one. Alfred could be a decent Swordmaster. Kagetsu obviously is really good as a Swordmaster. Yunaka, if you wanted to go for a crit build, because it does have like high dexterity and you have the Wu Dao, which is good for crits, but that's kind of... Swordmaster Saline actually isn't super awful. You can still run like 11 sword and go a little bit more physical based. You could do this with like characters like Chloe, Marin, Lapis, but they're just generally better off in another class. Same with like Clan. Clan could be okay in Swordmaster, I guess. You're generally just better off in another class though. Something like Paladin is just better. Hero is next up. Hero is a good class. It's really, you use it for, I could even put it in niche, I guess, but the growths are there. You use it mainly for just backup chain attacks. But Hero does give you 50% strength, 15% speed, 10% dex, 15% HP, 10 resistance, and 15 luck. This is pretty close to Paladin. I'll put it right next to Paladin because you kind of just do the same thing. You, for growth rates at least, you lose the S rank weapon type for getting 2 of the martials, and then you have access to chain attack. And the skill is pretty funny and really cheesy, and you can get away with some silly stuff with this. If your HP is at 100%, when the unit makes a chain attack, they actually attack twice. So if you have an army full of perfectly healthy heroes and one unit attacks, you have like 10 chain attacks going off, which equates to like 40 damage on somebody. So you can really cheese the game with them, but it's not objectively good it has to stay somewhere in this tier. So I guess for cheese potential, I'd put it like here. I'll do like this. I don't know. This feels good. It's like a random order. I guess this class should be, I don't know. It's somewhere like here. It's fine. It's, as for characters who go into hero, very nice. Those who want to use swords, you have to be in swords, but you do get axes or lances. It's just for any character that wants to use, who's going to stay on swords, that wants more strength. So someone like Kagetsu, Jean makes a good hero. It's nice for Lear. Obviously, Gold Mary's a good hero. It's not bad for someone like Alfred. I wouldn't put someone like Saline into it. You could do someone like Lapis. Diamant as a hero is fine, but Successor is just better in pretty much every regard. Clan is okay. Fogado would be okay. Rosado would be okay. Maybe Boucheron would be okay in it. You could do like a Lance hero. Amber wouldn't be awful. Mavier hero is actually pretty not that bad. Mavier kind of just shows up at the end game and you just reclass him to whatever you need him to do. I wouldn't. That's kind of the one way to use like Bunet or Vander. They could just be like moderately tanky heroes. Same with like Jade, maybe like Louis. Just kind of gives them another role to fulfill. Panette would be fine as a hero, as like an axe hero. Nothing super special. I wouldn't really put someone like Tamara into there. And I wouldn't really put someone like Yunaka there either. Maybe Saphir. Alright, Halberdier. Halberdier is a great class. This is a class that just can fix bad units. So first when we go to the growth rates here, where's Halberdier? Right here. So you get 10% HP, 15% strength, 5% magic, which is kind of funny, 20% dexterity, 10% speed, 15 defense, 5 resistance, and luck. So good growths overall. High strength, give a little bit of speed, and some good dex there. It does do pretty well and as like a crit build, and the 15% speed or 50% defense is nice there as well. The real selling point to Halberdier, it is a footlocked backup S-rank lance class, but it has pincer attack. If unit initiates combat while an ally is on the opposite side of the foe, always follow up as long as the weapon allows. So there's some things I want to clarify here first. This does not work with the smash weapons because they cannot follow up, and it does not let you quadruple hit if you are already going to double. It only lets you double if you weren't going to. Now, you can quad if you're using a brave weapon, because it doesn't count, this game doesn't count the brave weapons attacking twice as 2 attack, it only counts as 1 attack. So if you get a forged brave lance or something, you can just go crazy. So if you want to use Halberdier, the best units for this are the ones that have really high strength and not so good speed that can kind of end up doubling anyways. The best Halberdiers, without a doubt, one of the best ways to use Louis. Panette can make a good Halberdier, although she's usually just fine being an axe unit. Amber makes an amazing Halberdier and he gets into it very easily. Rosado makes a good Halberdier as well, although the base strength isn't quite there, but it still grows into one just fine. Alfred makes a great Halberdier. Jean could be a good Halberdier and could use this growths are fine for Jean, but he won't really need pincer attack. But if you want to make him it, he won't have really any issues. So he'll do fine in it. Etier has high strength, so and pretty low speed, so she can utilize that very well. Mavier could be a great class to put him into in the end game, and I believe that could be like a good way to fix someone like Jade. You wouldn't really want to put someone like Lapis in there, and she already has the speed to double, so you'd be better off, putting her in a fast class. I guess it could be a way to use Vander and make him usable. And the last class for Thief, it is somewhere between great and good, and here's kind of why. So we look at the growth rates. It has really nice growth rates. You have 5% HP, 10% strength, 20% dexterity, 15 speed, 15 defense as well, 5% resistance, and the 15 luck. This is a covert class that uses only daggers. You will have, or knives, I guess. You have S rank in those. And you do get pass when you reach the level threshold in the class. Where is Thief? Where are you, class? There you are. What pass lets you do is it just lets you run through enemies. You don't get, your movement doesn't get stopped once you go by them. You just get to run through them. You have to be a level 25 for Thief. And there is the classic kind of fog machine build for thieves, where you use corn, you go in the fog or any terrain, and you dodge tank. But the issue with this is if the enemies have a 0% hit rate on you, they will just choose to ignore you instead because they cannot hit you. So this is kind of a double-edged sword. So it's either at the bottom of great or the top of good. But it is strong. Just daggers and the stats are just good, or knives, I guess, are just good. As for who makes good thieves, you can obviously leave. Zelkov is the perfect example. He just shows up as a thief and does well for the rest of the game, although he very easily hits 0% hit rates on enemies, even with no investment, so you have to be a little careful there. Yunaka's more than fine staying as a thief for the entire game. Marin does make a good thief as well. She has the knife proficiency, and it does give some more strength for her, so she'd be fine there. Panette would be a really strong thief, and it does help her speed out a little bit, but I don't necessarily think she would be doubling. Jean really likes the growths from Thief, and so he would run this, 30% speed, 40% dex, still have good attack, and be really tanky, so he'd be a great thief as well. I don't think there's much else. Veil is okay in Thief. I tried. It's all right. I wouldn't recommend. I wouldn't recommend it, but you can do it if you insist. And I think that's probably it for all of the thieves, which will also do it for this video. So that is my ranking of all the classes and kind of who I recommend you use if you want to use this class, and who would make a good unit in each class. So thank you guys for tuning into this one. I know it was a long one, but whatever. All my videos are always long. Let me know what other Fire Emblem content you guys want to see from me, and I will see you all later. Peace.